Hey, welcome back. Now, we've started prototyping a level with some basic geometry, and we have this starting area, and the only way to go is forward. Now we need a sort of courtyard here that will allow us to place some enemies and some interesting things, so let's go ahead and get started with that. Now, rather than scale this floor out that way and have one big piece of geometry like this, instead, what I'd like to do is duplicate it so that way we don't have any geometry that's too big to work with. So I'm going to hold Alt and drag this one out just so that I have another single piece here. And I'm going to duplicate it again so that we have a sort of longer courtyard here. And I'm going to make sure that it's snapping to the right amount. And I'd actually like to take my scale for dragging objects around and put that up to 100. And that way when I drag it around, it's dragging by an entire one of these block units here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get our SuperGrid folder open, go to Starter Pack, Source, Meshes, and get another block out. So I'm going to get the SuperGrid box, drag one out here, and I'm going to hit R to scale it, and it looks like it's going to scale that way. So what I'd like to do is drag it over to the end here, and I'm going to move it over by 1 and just scale it out. Now I'd like to scale it to just one of these blocks and then duplicate it. So I'm going to scale it out to here and bring it up to about there. And then I'm going to go ahead and scale it this way. So that way we have a sort of platform here. Now I'm going to duplicate this platform by dragging to the left. So that way we have two of them. I'm going to select them both and duplicate and drag them this way. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and I'm going to be playing quite frequently throughout this just to sort of get a feel for how big things are and how it feels. So we can't really see up on the upper level of this, and I think I'd kind of like to. So I think I'm going to take each of these and scale them down in the Z direction by 1 unit. So let's do that and see how that looks. Now we can just barely see up to the floor on that second level, and that's what I want. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate one of these with rotation mode and rotate it by 90 degrees, and that way I can move this over here and we can create a sort of wall here. And I'd like to have some staircases going up on either side of these. So let's scroll down here and take our SuperGrid stairs and drag a set in here. And let's go ahead and make them twice as wide. And I'd like them to be about twice as long and high enough to reach the top. I'm actually going to move them back another unit and scale them like that. Now I'm going to duplicate this by hitting E and Alt rotating by 180. Then I can just position this one right here on the other side. So now I have 2 staircases. Now I'm going to right click and play from here just to see how this feels and what it looks like when running up onto this level and so on. And so this is looking all right. It's a little narrow up here. I may actually want these levels to be a little wider, but we can experiment with this. I think I'm just going to scale them out by 1 more unit and see how this feels. Now I have to scale that way, but I'm going to bring it back. Now because I had to scale that way to the left and then bring it back, I think it might be more convenient if I go ahead and rotate these by 180 degrees and then bring them back. And that way, as I'm scaling off of this or duplicating off of this, then I can scale it in the opposite direction there. Okay, so I'd like to create a second level or tier here. So I'm going to go ahead and take these, duplicate them over, and then duplicate them upward. Now I know no one's going to see this geometry down here, but this is all going to be deleted and replaced anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and just build off of it as if it's all solid. Now we have 2 levels here, and there's going to need to be staircases. What I'd like to do though is have like a recess right here. and then have two staircases in that recess. So here's what I mean. I'm going to scale this back a little bit, and I'm going to scale this one back by the same amount. And of course, I need to move it over. I could turn it around and flip it, but I'm just going to do that for now. Now I'm going to duplicate this set of stairs by Alt and selecting the both Z and Y axes at the same time and dragging it up here. Now I can rotate it by 90 degrees and simply position it into place. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it like this and duplicate it, rotate it by 180 and place it here. And I'm not quite decided about the width of this staircase, but for now I'm going to make it a bit wider like that. And then I think I'll have this connected here like this. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this block out and then duplicate it and drag it out and just fill that space there. So that way we have this sort of larger area here. Now let's go ahead and play from the bottom level and see what it looks like from the bottom, just so we can get a feel for how it looks and feels, and then we can run up to these top levels here. Now this would be a good location for some sort of reward, like a weapon or some ammo or a health pickup. Each of these little end locations in general should have a reward. That's sort of level design philosophy, is if you have a sort of maze-like structure or architecture, then any dead end should have some sort of reward at the end of it, so the player doesn't feel cheated for going all the way up there. Okay, so there's a couple of areas here. It seems like I kind of just feel like if I made my way all the way up here, that I wish there was something to run across to get over to that other side there. I feel like maybe that other side should have some area that you can't reach from over there, but you can reach from this side. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take this piece of geometry and just duplicate it over like this, and duplicate this one over. And I think I'm going to have some sort of a catwalk going all the way across here. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this around by 180 and then move it back here. And now when I scale it, I can scale it this way. And for this one, I'm just going to scale it all the way. And so I have it all the way over to this side like that. Now for this one, there's some Z clipping there, so I'm going to have to go ahead and scale it down. Again, not so important with this prototype geometry, but we don't really like to see Z clipping. Okay, so there could be a couple of things here like ammo or weapons. There could be something up here, some sort of incentive. And I feel like there shouldn't really be a like one-way feel to this level. I feel like you should be able to get up here either by going this right way or this left way. So I think there should be a staircase here too. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this staircase and bring it up here and just kind of drag it over to that side there. And you know what? It sort of seems a little cramped here. So what I think I'd like to do is just kind of copy this and maybe just have it sort of symmetrical. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this top level here with the stairs and everything. I'm going to right click and select group. And now these are all one group. And now I can duplicate it. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of these geometries here and take this grouped geometry, hold Alt and drag it over. And now I can just rotate it by 180 degrees. And now I have this geometry here, and I can just scoot it on back. So I can look at it from the top. I see that we're missing some geometry here. So these are offset by a little bit. So I can just move it in. And I know there's geometry underneath as well, so I can move that as well. So I'm going to select these two and move them in. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I can delete those. We don't really need them down there. Oh, nope, I needed some geometry there. So Control Z to undo that. Okay, so this is looking good. It looks like there's going to need to be some wall here. So I'm going to take this wall and hit E and rotate it by 90. And then I'm going to simply drag it over here. So now we got wall. I'm going to need to scale it a bit by, looks like 2 units, and move it over. And then I'm going to Alt and duplicate and bring it over to the other side. So there's walls there. And I think I'd like these walls to be taller. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate these walls. And see, again, duplicating these walls is showing you why it's a good idea to have things not too big. It's okay to group things like this, but for things like walls and stuff like that, it's a lot easier if you simply have, one kind of unit piece, and then you can duplicate those pieces, and then it's a lot easier to work with. And then for something like this, I need to fill this gap. I can simply scale those, and that looks good. And then if I want, I could take this whole section here, this whole piece, these 4 pieces here, and simply right click and group, and now they're all one piece, and I can duplicate them and drag them over to the other side. So we can prototype things really quickly this way. Let's go ahead and play from here on the bottom and see how it feels now to run up to the tops of these. And just make sure that, it's got breathing room, it's not too cramped, and that it looks like there's, enough room to move around. Imagine also that there should be some enemies down here that we'll be shooting at. So, try to imagine seeing what's going to be here in this level while we're playing the actual game. Okay, so we're just about done making this courtyard. I see that this part right here needs to be scaled a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and just close that gap. And I think that we're just about ready to place the next part there. I think the next part of this level is going to be somewhere up here, and making it through this courtyard is going to be like the first obstacle, and then maybe there can be a couple of more difficult enemies up there. Maybe a boss fight, who knows, it might be too early for that, but this is a good start. So we'll finish this basic level prototype in the next video. I'll see you then.